The kingdom of shone like a jewel beneath the morning sun, but inside its marble palace, coldness lived deeper than any winter storm. Princess walked through the grand hall with her hands folded behind her back, trying to ignore the whispers that always followed her steps. The barren ones. The silent daughter. Useless to the throne. She was 22, gentle-hearted and intelligent, yet judged for only one thing, her inability to bear children. The court never let her forget it. Ministers bowed to her with stiff necks and smiled with pity that felt like knives. But today was worse. Today, envoys from the Human Alliance had arrived. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, small in number, fragile in appearance, but known for impossible courage. The king hated them. He saw humans as stubborn creatures who refused to kneel before powerful empires. And now, after months of political tension, a human envoy had come to negotiate peace. Stood beside her father, king, at the top of the throne stairs. She kept her head down as footsteps echoed through the hall. A tall human walked in, wearing simple silver armor with no crown, no bright gemstones, and no arrogant expression. He bowed slowly. "I am Commander Rowan Hale," he said, voice steady. "I come in peace." Notice something unusual. He didn't stare at the golden pillars or jeweled floors like most visitors. His eyes, dark and calm, searched faces, trying to understand, not conquer. When his gaze met hers, she felt a flicker of warmth she didn't expect. But the king smirked. "Human, you ask for alliance," he said loudly. "Yet you offer nothing of value, so I offer you something equally worthless." Felt her stomach twist. She already knew. She could feel the words building in the king like poison. "I offer you my barren daughter," he declared. "Take her as a gesture of my generosity." Gasps filled the room. Some ministers looked entertained. Others pretended to be shocked, but none spoke up for her. Even the guards tightened their jaws but stayed silent. His heart cracked open. She had always known her father didn't love her, yet this was a wound deeper than any before. She stood frozen, feeling as if the floor had vanished beneath her. Commander Rowan did not react with the amusement or disgust that her father expected. Instead, he lifted his eyes toward her, truly seeing her trembling hands and the pain she tried to hide. There was no pity in his expression, only a quiet question: "Do you want this? Are you all right?" The king laughed. "Do not expect beauty or worth, human. She cannot give you children, legacy, or power. She is a burden even to me." Something changed in the human stance, subtle but powerful, like a wave gathering strength before crashing. He stepped forward and bowed again, deeper this time. "To receive anyone as a gift is a responsibility," he said softly. "But to receive a person who has been treated without honor, that is a chance to give them what they were." The hall went silent. Rowan turned toward and gently offered his hand, not grabbing, not demanding, simply offering. "Princess," he said, "if you choose to come with me, I will treat you with respect, not as a tool, not as a prize, as someone who deserves dignity." Didn't know how to breathe. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not in all her years trapped inside the palace walls. She looked at her father, hoping for even a flicker of regret. He only shrugged. "Go, you are nothing to me." Her chest tightened with a hurt so sharp she thought she would collapse, but Rowan's hand remained steady, patient. Placed her trembling fingers in his. A breath she didn't know she was holding finally escaped. Rowan nodded once and guided her away from the throne. Guards didn't stop them. Ministers didn't speak. The king simply turned to his advisor and began discussing political gains, as if his daughter were a broken piece of furniture being carried out. But as walked beside the human, she felt something new, a small spark rising inside her chest, fragile but alive. Hope. And in that quiet moment, she understood one thing. Her father hadn't just insulted her. He had set her free. The journey from his palace to the human starship felt unreal too. Moments ago, she had been a forgotten shadow in her father's court. Now she walked beside Commander Rowan, her steps uncertain but her heart strangely lighter. The palace gates shut behind them with a heavy thud, sounding almost like the closing of a chapter she had never been brave enough to end herself. The air outside felt different, cooler, freer, as if the world beyond the walls had been waiting for her all along. Rowan didn't rush her. He kept a respectful distance, letting her set the pace. Every so often he glanced at her, not to judge but to check if she was okay. Didn't remember the last time anyone had cared how she felt. When they reached the landing platform, she stopped. A sleek silver ship hovered above the ground, surrounded by quiet, humming energy. Human soldiers in gray-blue armor stood in formation, but their faces showed genuine concern when they saw her expression. One soldier whispered, "Is she all right, Commander?" Rowan answered gently, "She will be." Swallowed, feeling a softness she wasn't used to. I don't want to be a burden." Rowan turned to her fully. "A burden?" His voice held no anger, only surprise. "You are a person, Princess, not an object, not a transaction." No one had ever said that to her. He guided her up the ramp and into the ship. The air inside smelled faintly of metal and warm light. Simple, clean, nothing like the perfume-suffocating palace. Rows of monitors glowed softly along the corridor. Touched the smooth wall, almost afraid. Everything here feels honest. Rowan paused beside her, studying her reaction. "Is honesty rare in your home?" She lowered her eyes. "Rare, it is forbidden." There was a long silence before he spoke again. "Then you will not hear lies from me." They entered a small room with a window looking out into the sky. Rowan offered it to her without hesitation. "This will be your space," he said. "You can rest here, decorate it, change anything you want. No one will enter without your permission." Her breath trembled. Such freedom felt heavier than chains once did. "Commander, why are you being so kind?" she asked quietly. Rowan leaned against the doorframe, thinking. "Because kindness is not a reward," he answered. "It is a choice, and you deserve choices." Looked out at the clouds drifting below. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel trapped inside someone else's expectations. But the truth still burned inside her. "My father called me Barren," she whispered. "He used it as an insult. I have heard it so many times, I started believing I am broken." Rowan's voice softened. "In human culture, children do not define worth. Strength is not measured by what a person can produce, but by how they carry their heart." Her eyes stung. She bit her lip, trying not to cry. "You carry yours with great courage," he added. She looked at him sharply. "How can you say that? You don't even know me." "I know this," Rowan replied calmly. "You stood alone in front of an entire court that mocked you, and you did not bend or collapse. That is courage." His words warmed places in her that had been cold for years. Before she could answer, the ship lifted gently off the ground. The engines hummed softly as shrank behind them, its towering spires fading into distance. Watched her home vanish. She felt no triumph, no anger, only a quiet sadness for the girl she had been inside those walls. Rowan approached slowly, giving her time to accept everything. "You are safe now," he said. "Safe," she repeated the word softly, as if testing its meaning. "I have never been safe before." Rowan didn't touch her, didn't try to comfort her with gestures she wasn't ready for. He simply stayed beside her, offering presence instead of pressure. When her eyes grew heavy, she finally sat on the small bed. "Commander," she murmured, "I don't know what my life will become now." He lowered his head slightly. "Then let us discover it one step at a time." For the first time in years, closed her eyes without fear. The ship moved through the sky, carrying her toward a future she could not imagine. And for the first time in her life, she felt she was moving, not because someone pushed her, but because she had chosen to walk. The human starship sailed through the deep blue quiet of space, leaving far behind. But inside Princess' heart, the echoes of her past still clung like shadows. Her room was silent except for the soft humming of the engines, a sound that strangely comforted her. It felt steady, reliable, unlike the world she had left. Every morning, Rowan checked on her. Not with orders, not with demands, but with simple questions meant for a human being, not a political object. "Did you sleep well, Princess? Have you eaten? Do you need fresh air?" Nobody had ever asked her what she needed. It felt unreal. On the fourth day of travel, Rowan invited her to walk through the ship. She hesitated at first, worried the crew would judge her like the court did. But Rowan's voice held a steady warmth. "You don't need to hide," he told her gently. "This ship is your home now, too." She followed him through bright corridors where crew members paused and bowed respectfully, not mockingly, not with pity, but with genuine acknowledgement. Some smiled politely, others simply nodded. No whispers chased her steps. She was unused to being treated as if she belonged. In the training hall, she watched soldiers practicing with energy staffs. Their movements were sharp but fluid, like waves crashing against rocks. Rowan explained each step of their routine, speaking with calm patience. Listened with quiet fascination. "Humans train like dancers," she observed. Rowan almost smiled. "Our strength is not in size, it is in discipline." She looked at him curiously. "Is that why humans survive in galaxies stronger than them?" "Partly," he replied, "but mostly humans survive because we protect each other." His words struck her deeply. Protect each other. She had never experienced that. Power protected only itself. Later that afternoon, Rowan brought her to the observation deck, her favorite place since boarding the ship. The enormous window stretched across the wall, showing endless stars scattered across the darkness. "It looks like 1,000 lanterns," she whispered. Rowan nodded. Space is quiet but never empty. Stood closer to the glass, letting the starlight fall across her face. She looked peaceful until her voice broke softly. "Commander, do you think my father regrets giving me away?" Rowan studied her carefully before answering. He knew she needed truth, not comfort. "No," he said gently. "He does not regret it." Her breath trembled, but she didn't cry. Not yet. "But his lack of regret," Rowan added, "says nothing about your worth, only about his blindness." Closed her eyes. A long silence stretched between them, soft but heavy. When she finally spoke, her voice sounded tired. "I keep thinking about it," she admitted. "If I was stronger, if I was better, if I could give him what he wanted, maybe." "No," Rowan's voice cut through her doubt, firm but not loud. "Your father's cruelty is not your failure, it is his." Her eyes widened slightly. Nobody had ever defended her like that, not with such certainty. "You are not a gift to be thrown away," Rowan continued. "You are a life, and your value does not come from your ability to bear children." Pressed a hand against her chest, feeling something inside her shift. The words hurt, yet healed at the same time. "Why are humans so different?" she whispered. "We learned long ago that survival means caring for even the weakest. A society that abandons its people destroys itself." Slowly sat on the floor by the window, the weight of her emotions too big to carry standing up. Rowan lowered himself beside her, keeping a respectful distance. "I feel like I'm learning how to breathe for the first time," she admitted. "You are shedding chains," Rowan said. "It takes time." She looked at him with eyes full of quiet hope. "Will you help me?" He met her gaze without hesitation. "Yes, as long as you need." A small smile trembled on her lips, the first sincere smile since leaving. Just then the ship's alarm chimed softly. Rowan stood, eyes sharp. "Stay here," he told her calmly. "I'll check what's happening." She watched him leave, her heart tightening, not with fear but with something new. Trust. Pressed her palm against the window again, watching stars drift past. She didn't know what danger lay ahead, but for the first time she believed she wouldn't face it alone. And somewhere deep inside her, a spark began to grow, quiet, warm, and fiercely alive. The soft alarm echoing through the ship was not loud, but it carried a weight that made Princess sit up sharply. She had never heard such a sound before, steady, pulsing, almost like a heartbeat warning of danger. The observation deck lights dimmed slightly, and the stars outside shifted as the ship began to change course. Rose to her feet, her pulse quickening. She wanted to follow Rowan, but she remembered his words, "Stay here." Even so, waiting in silence felt harder than walking into any storm. A few minutes later, footsteps approached, not Rowan. A young human officer stepped inside and bowed. Princess, the commander requested you remain calm. There is no immediate threat, but we detected an unidentified vessel. Unidentified, whispered, dread curling in her stomach. Who is it? We're not certain yet. Clenched her hands. For a moment, all the old fear returned, the feeling of being powerless, useless, someone others had to protect. But then she remembered Rowan's voice, steady and warm. You are not a burden. The officer stayed with her, offering quiet reassurance, but the tension in his shoulders betrayed his worry. After a long, heavy minute, the door slid open again. Rowan entered, calm but alert. Exhaled in relief. Commander, what is happening? Rowan stepped closer. His voice was soft but serious. We picked up a stealth signature on our radar. It's not human, it might be a rogue scout. Her breath froze. My father. We don't know, he replied, but the timing is suspicious. Felt her knees weaken. Didn't care about her, but they cared about humiliation. If other kingdoms learned that the king had given away his own daughter, he would want to silence her before the truth spread. Are they here to take me back? She asked. The pain in her voice made Rowan pause. If they are, he said, they will fail. He motioned for her to follow. Come, I want you somewhere safer. Walked beside him through a corridor where soldiers moved quickly but with controlled precision. The ship wasn't chaotic, just focused, like a heartbeat growing stronger during a challenge. Rowan led her into a smaller strategy room with a circular holographic table. A glowing blue projection showed a small, shadowy ship trailing behind them. Stared at it, her throat tight. They really followed us. Maybe, Rowan said carefully, or maybe they were already watching us. What will they do? Rowan tapped a command, zooming in on the enemy craft. They're too slow to catch us, but they're waiting for something, a weakness, a mistake. Lowered her head. They won't stop. Rowan studied her expression. A gentle strength entered his voice. Listen to me. Your father may be king, but he is not your destiny. She looked up, surprised by the fire in his eyes. You are not going back, Rowan continued. Not unless you choose to, and if anyone tries to take you by force, they will answer to me and this entire crew. Her heart thudded. No one had ever stood between her and harm before, not in her whole life. Suddenly the ship jolted. The lights flickered, gasped as she grabbed the table for support. Rowan pressed a hand to his comm. Report. A voice crackled through. Commander, the enemy vessel fired a warning shot across our path. No impact, but they're probing our shields. Rowan's jaw tightened. Prepare evasive maneuvers. Watched him command with steady authority, each order calm and confident. She was struck by how different he was from her father. Rowan didn't shout. He didn't belittle anyone. He built trust even in chaos. The ship shifted again as they changed course. His heartbeat raced, but Rowan placed a reassuring hand near her, not touching, just close enough that she felt anchored. I am sorry, she whispered. My presence brought danger to your ship. Rowan turned to her sharply. No, the danger came from those who threw you away, not from you. His voice carried such conviction that her eyes burned with emotion. Just then, another officer entered quickly. Commander, they're trying to force a comm link. Rowan nodded. Put it through. The hologram changed. A masked captain appeared, his voice cold. Return the king's property. Flinched, Rowan stepped forward, shoulders firm. She is not property, Rowan said. Then she is a political mistake we intend to erase. His breath hitched. Rowan didn't look away. If you attempt to harm her or my crew, understand this. You will not leave this encounter victorious. The captain mocked him with a sneer. Humans talk bravely, but you forget your place. Rowan's voice remained steady. My place is beside those who deserve protection. The transmission cut abruptly. Stared at Rowan, awe shining through her fear. Commander, she whispered, why do you care so much? Rowan looked at her with quiet sincerity. Because someone should have cared for you long before I arrived. Her chest tightened, warm and aching. Outside the window, the enemy ship glowed like a predatory shadow. But inside her heart, something brighter awakened, trust deepening into courage. The tension aboard the human starship thickened with every passing minute. The scout ship kept its distance, circling like a predator waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Inside the command chamber, alarms glowed faintly, and the crew moved with controlled urgency. Rowan stood at the center, issuing calm instructions. His voice carried strength, yet no panic. That steadiness was the only thing keeping Princess grounded. But inside her, a storm was rising. For most of her life, danger had always been something she silently endured, something others caused while she suffered quietly. But now, this danger was following her, hungry and merciless, and she couldn't bear the thought of Rowan or his crew being harmed because of her. She stepped closer to the strategy table. "Commander, let me speak to them." Rowan turned sharply. "No." "I must," insisted, her voice trembling but determined. "I know them. I know how they think, maybe." "You are not negotiating with people who see you as a threat to their pride," Rowan cut in gently. "They're not here for diplomacy. They're here to erase you." Her breath caught. "Then what do we do?" Rowan studied the hologram of the enemy vessel. "We stay ahead of them. Our ship is faster, but their weapons may outrange ours. We cannot fight recklessly." Watched him, how he spoke to every officer with respect, how he listened to each suggestion, how he never treated anyone like they were less than him. The contrast to her father's court was painful and beautiful at the same time. Suddenly, the ship lurched slightly to the left. A warning blinked red. "Another probe shot fired," a soldier called out. "They're mapping our shields." Rowan's jaw tightened. "Keep moving. Do not let them lock onto us." Gripped the railing. Her heart hammered like a trapped bird. She could feel fear crawling up her spine, trying to drag her back into helplessness. But Rowan's voice cut through the terror. He said softly, coming to stand beside her, "Are you afraid?" "Yes," she whispered, her throat tight. "But I don't want to hide anymore. I'm tired of being the one who must be protected while others face danger." Rowan looked at her with a mix of respect and sadness. "You are brave, but bravery is not running into fire. It is knowing when to stand and when to stay safe." "I have never been safe," she said bitterly, "not even in my own home." He hesitated, just a breath, and lowered his voice. "Then let this ship be the first place where you are." Those words struck deep. They wrapped around her heart like a warm shield. As the ship crept closer, Rowan guided her to a nearby console. "Here, learn how our shield system works. Knowledge will steady your fear." Blinked in surprise. "You want me to help?" "You want to stand," Rowan reminded gently. "So stand with us." She nodded. He explained the glowing symbols, the shifting energy patterns, the shield regulators. She listened closely, absorbing every word. For the first time in her life, she wasn't being sidelined, she was being trusted. An officer called out again, "Commander, they're accelerating." Rowan moved to the front. "Hold course, don't let them force us into open fire." Felt something change inside her, fear transforming into determination. Her hands stopped trembling, her breathing steadied. She turned toward Rowan. "Commander," she said, "my father's people only respect strength. If we look like we're running, they will push harder." Rowan met her eyes. "And what do you suggest?" Swallowed hard. "Show them we are not afraid. Show them the ship they follow is not vulnerable." Rowan studied her. In her trembling resolve, he saw something powerful growing, something she hadn't been allowed to show in her father's court. A leader's courage. He gave a small nod. "We will hold our path." She exhaled shakily, both terrified and proud. The enemy ship drew closer, now fully revealed. Dark metal, sharp wings. The symbol of the crown etched boldly across its front, a reminder of the world that had rejected her. Stared at it without blinking. "All my life I thought my voice had no weight, but now I want to speak for myself." Rowan stepped closer, his voice quiet and steady. "Then speak, and we will stand beside you." Her heart warmed. For once she did not feel like a shadow, she felt seen. The ship shook as the scout fired another warning blast. The crew held steady, the shields held strong. Lifted her chin. She was no longer the abandoned daughter of a king who never loved her. She was a woman who refused to disappear. And she would face whatever came next, not in silence, not alone, but with her own strength rising at last. The scout ship continued to tail them, its shadow stretching across the stars like a claw reaching for something it believed still belonged to it. Tension rippled through the human crew, but they held their positions with discipline and confidence, Rowan's leadership anchoring them like the core of a storm. Princess stood among them, no longer hiding behind Rowan's commands. Her posture was tense but unbroken. She had made a choice. She would not be silent anymore. The comm panel beeped sharply. The enemy ship was trying to connect again. Rowan glanced at, "Do you still wish to speak?" Swallowed, feeling her heartbeat drum against her ribs. "Yes," she whispered, then stronger, "Yes, let them hear me." Rowan nodded at the comm officer. "Open the channel." The hologram flickered to life once again. The captain's mask glowed cold red, his voice dripping venom. "Return the king's discarded daughter," he ordered. "Do not force us to damage your fragile vessel." Stepped forward before Rowan could answer. Her voice trembled for only a second. "I am not discarded," she said. The captain paused, surprised. "Princess," he sneered, "you dare speak." "I dare live," she responded, her tone soft but unwavering. "And I will not return to a place where I was treated like a problem instead of a person." Her hands were shaking, but her eyes stayed steady. The captain's voice hardened. "You forget your position." "No," she said, lifting her chin. "I finally remember it." A hush fell across the command chamber. Every soldier listened. Even Rowan watched her with quiet pride. Continued, her breathing even now. "My father gave me away not because I am Barren, but because he fears that kindness is stronger than cruelty. He fears voices that don't obey him, and he fears the truth." The captain stiffened. "Silence." Spoke louder, her voice ringing like a fragile bell becoming steel. "You will not silence me anymore. I choose my own path now." Rowan stepped beside her, not to speak for her, but to make a silent promise that she would not stand alone. The captain's tone grew sharp. "Your father commands your return. He will bring force if needed." Rowan replied calmly, "Then he will meet force he cannot break." The captain slammed a fist against his console, and the transmission ended with a hiss. Silence settled around them, exhaled slowly, her knees threatening to buckle. Rowan touched her arm lightly, steadying her. "You were extraordinary," he said softly. Looked at him, eyes shimmering. "I was terrified." "Courage is not the absence of fear," Rowan's voice warmed. "It is standing anyway." A soft alarm beeped. The officer at the radar station turned pale. "Commander, the enemy ship is charging weapons." Felt cold dread coil in her stomach. "They're really going to attack." Rowan remained calm, though his jaw tightened. "Shields to maximum, prepare evasive maneuvers." Stepped closer to the window, watching the enemy ship glow with dangerous light. Her voice trembled. "They will not stop." "No," Rowan agreed, "but neither will we." Another blast shook the ship. Lights flickered. Soldiers steadied themselves, but no one panicked. Rowan spoke firmly. "Stay focused. They want fear, don't give it to them." His fingers pressed against the console. "Is there any way to escape?" "We're charting options," Rowan answered. "But they've predicted our routes. They must have studied our ship." His heart tightened as realization dawned. "They planned for this. They expected me to run." Rowan touched a command panel and the room dimmed. "Then they underestimated you." Another blast struck their shields. A deep hum vibrated through the walls. Suddenly remembered something, small but important. "Commander, ships have an old weakness, the left stabilizer coil. If hit, their navigation becomes unstable." Rowan turned to her sharply. "You know this?" "Yes, my tutor once spoke of it, thinking I wasn't listening." Rowan's eyes brightened with strategy. Targeting their stabilizer coil might stop their pursuit. An officer asked, "Do we risk open combat?" Rowan's voice was steady. "Not open combat, precision." He looked at, "Your knowledge may save us." Her breath caught. No one had ever said those words to her. Rowan gave the order. Prepare a focus strike, minimal energy. Aim only at the left stabilizer coil. The crew scrambled into action. The ship shifted, positioning itself carefully. Watch the targeting screen blink and lock onto the weak spot, tiny but vital. Rowan raised his hand. Fire. A single beam shot out, clean, precise, controlled. It struck the enemy ship exactly where it said. Sparks exploded across the vessel. Its wings wobbled. The engines sputtered. Then it spiraled away into the distance, unable to keep steady pursuit. The humans erupted with relieved cheers. Covered her mouth, overwhelmed, not by fear but by the realization. She had helped protect the ship. Rowan approached her, his voice soft but filled with pride. You saved us. Her eyes filled with tears she didn't hide. I mattered. Rowan smiled, warm and steady. You always did. Breathed deeply, the weight of her past loosening its grip. She had found courage, voice, and purpose. She was no longer the insult her father tried to throw away. She was a force the galaxy would have to reckon with. The morning of the gathering arrived with a sky painted in soft gold, as if the sun itself wanted to witness what fate would reveal. The kingdom's largest hall was filled with nobles, warriors, elders, scholars, and curious citizens who had heard too many rumors about the Barren princess, and the strange human who dared to treat her like someone precious. Everyone whispered, trading stories like polished stones, some beautiful, some sharp enough to cut. They wondered why the king had called the whole kingdom together. Surely it was never for something simple. Stood behind one of the stone pillars, her hands shaking even though she tried hard to breathe calmly. She wore a long robe of midnight blue, gifted by the human. The robe was plain, but he had sewn small silver threads around the sleeves so delicately that light clung to them. She looked stronger than before, more open, like a flower that had found the right season to bloom. Stood next to her, not in armor, not with any grand symbol, only with quiet faith that she would not face this moment alone. When the king entered, silence fell like a curtain. He walked slowly to the center, his royal cloak brushing the marble, but his usual confidence was gone. He looked older, weighed down by pride cracked open. His eyes shifted toward, and something like regret flickered across his face. Today, the king said, voice carrying through the hall, I speak not as a ruler, but as a father who has been blind for too long. The crowd murmured. No one had expected this tone. Stepped forward from behind the pillar. Her heart pounded like drums before battle, yet she did not hide. She lifted her chin, something she had never done in front of so many eyes before. Stayed behind her, but close enough that she could feel his presence like a warm shield. For years, the king continued, I saw my daughter as a burden, a failure, a weakness that embarrassed the throne. I believed she could give nothing to this kingdom. I believed lies about her worth. Flinched at the words, but she forced herself to remain still. The truth hurt, but she had lived with that pain for too long to fear it now. And yet, the king said, voice breaking, the human treated her better than her own blood did. He valued her heart. He restored her spirit. He gave her hope when her own father stole it. Gasps spread across the hall. Some nobles lowered their eyes, ashamed. Others were stunned that the king would punish himself with honesty. Stepped forward now, not boldly but respectfully. I did not restore what was lost, he said gently. Always had worth. I only held up a mirror. His simple words struck deeper than any speech. Felt tears rise, not from sorrow, but from the weight lifting at last. She had carried the label of Barren like chains. But now, in this hall filled with witnesses, something inside her unlocked. The king bowed his head to her. My daughter, he said, voice trembling, I ask for forgiveness, not as your king, but as a man who failed to see your light. The hall froze. A king bowing was unheard of. His breath trembled as she stepped closer. I do not want revenge, she said softly. I only wanted to be seen and perhaps believed in. Her words slid through the hall like a warm wind. The king looked up, eyes wet. Then permit me to see you now, not as the daughter I feared, but as the woman you have become. A strange strength settled in her. I accept your apology, she whispered, but my life will not be lived in the shadows again. The crowd erupted, not in celebration but in something deeper, respect. Then something unexpected happened. An elderly healer rose from the audience. She stepped forward with slow, careful steps and bowed before. "Princess," the healer said, "you are not barren. Your body was wounded long ago by a childhood illness. But healing is possible now. We have new methods, treatments your father never allowed." The hall exploded with stunned whispers. Put a hand over her mouth, trembling as new hope flooded her like rising sunlight. Not a promise, just a possibility, but even that felt like a miracle. Gently held her hand. "Whatever comes," he said softly, "you won't face it alone." Nodded, tears streaming freely now. "For the first time," she whispered, "my future feels like mine." The king stepped beside them, not above them. "Let the kingdom witness," he declared, "the beginning of a new chapter, not just for my daughter, but for all who were ever judged as less." The hall roared with approval, breaking the silence that had ruled her life for too long. And in the middle of it all, felt something powerful grow inside her. Not magic, not prophecy, but her own strength finally waking. Her story was no longer an insult. It was a legacy in the making.